The Texas legislature files thousands of bills every session. With so many bills, important details can easily get overlooked, even on critical legislation. That's why we've asked legislators to come to TPPF to talk about their bills, and make sure you stay on top of the most important issues making their way through the Capitol. This is The Layout. I'm Carson Clayton, Campaign Director for Life Powered at the Texas Public Policy Foundation. And today, I'm with Chairman Cody Harris. Chairman Harris, welcome to The Layout.
Man, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So there's been a lot of attention on nuclear energy and nuclear technology, especially over the past 2 to 3 years. I know it started off, our attention kind of shifted there after Governor Abbott announced his intention for Texas to be the leader in nuclear energy about 1.5 years ago, as we should be. And the next big step, I think, is legislation that you filed recently, HB 14, which is calling for the development of the Texas Advanced Nuclear Energy Office. So before we get into the bill, tell us, what's the state of nuclear? Why all the renewed attention recently, and where's Texas kind of sit?
It's a great question. I think for me personally, I'm a country guy from a town of 18,000 people we don't have many nuclear physicists in Palestine, not a lot of talk about nuclear. But what got me interested in the technology is my focus on water and digging into water, understanding that the state of Texas is sitting on literal oceans of brackish groundwater. And if we're ever going to utilize that as a source of water for the rest of the state, then we've got to figure out how to provide the energy to desalinate that brackish groundwater. And these small modular reactors that you can co-locate with these desalination plants just make so much sense. And so that's where I started digging into it, trying to learn about it. Then Uri happens, and we see the need for dispatchable, reliable power generation. And in my personal opinion, wind and solar and batteries don't really qualify for that category of dispatchable or reliable. And I think as one thing we've learned as a state is that it's good to have a diverse economy and diverse sources of generation that are dispatchable and reliable. And there's really only two sources. That's either nuclear or gas powered right now, because feds won't let us build any more coal fired plants. If that were an option on the table, I think there'd be a lot of us who'd be all for it. Yeah, absolutely. And so when you start to dig in to look at the different technologies that are available, that are out there for especially the advanced nuclear reactors, molten salt, all sorts of different ones, it's really exciting that Texas could be the one to lead and to be the epicenter for the development of these new nuclear technologies. And then you come to find out we're in a complete race right now. Whether we acknowledge it or not, China is building advanced reactors faster than anybody else in the world. Russia is exporting more enriched uranium to fuel nuclear reactors than any other country in the world. And by the way, the state of Texas is sitting on more uranium deposits than Saudi Arabia has oil deposits. So it's an untapped industry that we have sitting here. I think it's just a massive opportunity for the state of Texas that we should be leading on.
I'm glad you mentioned uranium deposits, because it makes sense for Texas to lead on new energy technology, but there's a lot more that goes into nuclear industry and nuclear technology than just the energy generation.
That's right.
There's medical
isotope harvesting,
absolutely, and then the mining and the workforce that comes with it. So I think we can get into that, talking about the bill. Everyone knows there's lots of hurdles to developing new nuclear generation or nuclear technology, capital hurdles, regulatory hurdles. I think think education and kind of fear around it is a big hurdle as well. So tell us about HB 14, what it does, and how it's going to kind of help overcome some of these issues.
Sure. So there's two main components to House Bill 14, and the first, we set up a new advanced nuclear deployment office within the office of the governor. So he would appoint someone who is already very well versed in the nuclear industry. He appointed the Advanced Nuclear Working Group over if I got that name right,
over the Public Utility Commission.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there was a lot of experts who spent a lot of time, diving in, figuring out, okay, what does the state of Texas need to do to fast track building nuclear reactors? So the overall goal of House Bill 14 is to get electrons on the grid, commercial deployment of advanced nuclear reactors. But like you said, there's a lot of these other components to it, from the supply chain side, the educating the workforce needed to run these nuclear reactors, so much economic impact. And so what we're doing, the primary goal of setting up this new office within the governor's office is to fast track the permitting process and the construction process. So that person will work directly with the nuclear companies who are awarded part of this program to work with the NRC and the Department of Education. Department of Energy, to try to fast track that permitting process, the site selection and the construction permitting process through the federal government, and then working with state agencies, TCEQ and the PUC, to make sure that we streamline everything to shorten this down from a 4 to 6 year process down to a two-year process. So that's really the goal there. They will also be administering this incentive program. It's a reimbursement grant program that 3 different phases to it, or tiers, and that's to assist with the cost of the permitting process, construction, and then a completion bonus that people can opt in, or not people, but companies could opt into. And that's the idea as it is right now. We've got a long way to go in the legislative process, and this thing could take on a few different forms between here and when it actually gets to the governor's desk. But that's kind of a basic overview of what we're doing.
And I think a lot of people, they're misunderstanding exactly how long this process is. There's been a lot of excitement about nuclear, and people, some think we're going to have a fantastic session and start building reactors, next year, this is the goal of this is to eventually shrink this process down. And I like the idea of this office and the permitting officer. I think in the past referred to as a permitting Sherpa.
Right.
We don't have a lot of control over the NRC approval process, but there is a regulatory process here in the state that we can address and adjust and streamline as well.
Exactly. And I think the ultimate goal would be for a state agency or this office to be granted primacy on at least the site selection for the NRC. Take that off the plate of the federal government. Texans know our land better than anybody else. With TCEQ, we've been permitting sites, and with the Railroad Commission, permitting sites for different uses with primacy from the federal government. I think that's a natural fit once we get a couple of these under our belt and prove that we can do the job well. And really streamline that process quite a bit.
And that there's, part of the working group report that came out was identifying some of these potential sites.
Exactly.
They're all over the place.
They're all over the place.
And I think when it comes to kind of delegating authority, there is a precedent there. It used to be, I think the NRC handled everything to do with waste, and that authority has been delegated to some states, including Texas. So a future where Texas is, delegated the authority for siting and anything else, I think is welcome here. You named some of the major hurdles that get brought up a lot. Capital is a major hurdle. The regulatory process is a major hurdle. I think there is another one here that was touched on in the working group, and I think touched on during the committee hearing on this bill recently. That's our energy market. Like you mentioned, there has been an explosion of wind and solar here. People like to come to Texas to farm those subsidies, and there's been trouble getting reliable, dispatchable generation on the grid. Once this process goes through, I think some of the low-hanging fruit's going to be, behind the meter stuff, as we say, smaller projects.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So AI data centers, projects like Dow Chemicals doing down in Seadrift, those sorts of things. But I think we do share the same goal to eventually get more nuclear power as baseload generation on the Texas grid, powering Texas homes and businesses. you think there's some adjustments that need to be made to our energy market so that that could be the eventual process, and that we give the nuclear the opportunity to perform on our grid?
Absolutely. Unfortunately, we're dealing with the reality that there's not a level playing field right now because of the subsidies that the wind and solar industry benefit from the federal government. It's impossible to compete with somebody who's got who's operating in the positive no matter what they do, and so that's why, in my opinion, we have to help these nuclear companies get over the hurdle, and then my goal is for the government to get out of it. Mm-hmm. Once we bring in economies of scale and we lower the cost for nuclear development, then the state should have no more skin in the game at that point, or no more taxpayer investment in it, and get out completely. And hopefully at that point, the federal government will have done a lot of work to correcting the wrongs that have been done over the last several years and proliferating a unreliable industry.
Absolutely. I think as soon as we get to a point where the grid is valuing reliability here in Texas, the nuclear is going to be, really the cornerstone of that. We were discussing a little bit ago the committee hearing on this bill, and a subject like nuclear, you're expecting some pushback. Some of it is expected topics like waste and things like that. Some of it is not. So what pushback have you gotten on the bill? What are you hearing? Anything novel? Anything that we don't typically hear about nuclear energy?
Man, there's so much excitement around it. There's really been little pushback. And I wouldn't say that there really has been, except for that hard left environmentalist activist type character. Everyone else is supportive of it. Even folks that I talk to who are in the oil and gas industry, they understand that this isn't competing with oil and gas. This comes alongside oil and gas. I mean, to be able to deploy small modular reactors out into the Permian Basin to provide the power needed to extract that oil and gas out of there and then pump it out to our refineries, it's going to be a net benefit to everybody. But there really I have yet to hear much pushback from any legitimate sources.
Well, you mentioned kind of environmentalist groups, which has always been strange to me.
It doesn't make any sense.
And I don't know if it's they're finally willing to admit, or just finally realizing that if they're going to prioritize carbon emissions and power generation, there's absolutely no way we could maintain the lifestyles we currently have as Texans and Americans while trying to eliminate carbon emissions without nuclear energy. So that's always a big question mark as to why they ride that side of the fence.
No question. And if people choose to love nuclear energy because of the lower zero carbon emissions, great. Look, go for it. But that's not on my priority list. This is about reliability and the opportunity for Texas to lead and to really have an enormous impact on the Texas economy, and hopefully take us from 8th largest economy in the world to 7th to 6th to 5th to number 1. That'd be my ultimate goal.
Absolutely. Well, I share that with you. We'll wrap it up here with one last question. So, like I said, the committee hearing already happened. There's lots of support there. People are really excited about nuclear energy. Like we mentioned, this is House Bill 14. I think everyone that watches this, these videos knows that a low numbered bill like that is has pretty good odds going out. So I'm confident that this is going to go through in a way that we all like. So what's next steps? Like you said, this is not a 1-session thing. It's not a 2-session thing. So what do you see coming in the future after implementing the Advanced Nuclear Energy Office?
Obviously, we're not going to get this perfect right out of the box when this is so new. We're learning as we go, right? So we're just trying to set up the framework of something that we can build on into the future as these projects develop, as we learn and figure out how to be more efficient and more agile. And so my hope, let's look 10, 15 years down the road, we've got several advanced nuclear reactors built or expansion projects going on at our existing nuclear facilities, and the market begins to take over, and the state is able to completely step out from a incentive standpoint and just be there to help fast track and reduce bureaucratic red tape. It's my vision that we will have hundreds of advanced nuclear small modular reactors deployed all over the state, whether it's through working on brackish groundwater desalination or down on the coast, saltwater desalination, or working with the Produced Water Consortium to tackle the produced water issue, or powering the data facilities, AI facilities that are coming. I mean, those by themselves need a gigawatt of power. That's a whole lot of power. So it's just a massive opportunity for the state, in my opinion, and I'm excited to be the author on the bill and be leading the charge.
Well, we're excited you're carrying it for sure.
Thank you.
So thank you, Chairman Harris, for joining us on the layout.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.